Welcome everybody to the Storytime channel. My name is Steven, and today we have some malicious compliance stories. Our first story of the day is by Sev7100. Won't approve vacation time? That's cool. How about paid sick leave? From a medic in the pre-pandemic times. We do our scheduling 2 months in advance for work, since most people have multiple jobs and EMS isn't the kind of job that can just hang a "be back in 15" sign on the door. So after diligently working for my company for over a year, I finally wanted to use some of my vacation days I accrued. Issue was, there's like 8 levels of management, so it's hard to get things approved when we work overnights and management works business hours. I asked my supervisor to approve some vacation time several months out. He says to try and trade shifts with an employee so no one has to actually take time off. I don't care, so long as I get my trip. So I booked my flight and try to trade my shifts. 2 months out from my flight, no one traded for my shifts and my supervisor won't approve vacation time. So I talked to his boss, same story. Try to get a shift trade, says he can't approve vacation time. I say, I'm still going on my trip. 1 month out from the trip, no changes, supervisor and his boss can't approve my time. And at this point, they say that the schedule is set and I'm stuck with my shifts since no one would take a trade. So I call their boss and she says it's too late to do anything about it. 2 weeks till my flight, no coworker wanted to trade for my shifts. No manager 3 tiers up would approve vacation time. So I call our dispatch center and call out as if I was emergently sick. But 2 weeks advance notice. Legally, dispatch can't ask questions, and the dispatcher just chuckled, realizing I was calling out sick in advance, and just pulled me off the schedule. Not 3 minutes later, I get a phone call from the highest up manager I've ever spoken to. She says I can't call out sick 3 shifts in a row 2 weeks in advance. I'm like, freaking bet, what are you gonna do about it? I mention all my email correspondence with the other manager refusing to approve vacation time and say I'm just gonna call out since I'm not being allowed to use my time. She drops a threat, well, if you call out 3 consecutive shifts, you'll need to go to occupational medicine and get approved to come back to work from a long illness. Without skipping a beat, I go, well, my flight back gets in real late Tuesday, so might as well pull me off the Wednesday shift too and make it an even 4 days, since I won't be able to get to OMS that day. We have a long silent pause on the phone. Well, next time just call me first. I'll approve the vacation time. Don't worry about OMS and don't miss that Wednesday shift. A nice little victory of mine against a giant healthcare corporation. Since they wouldn't approve my vacation days, but they can't question my sick days if I'm willing to take them. In your opinion, when trying to put in a request for vacation days, how long in advance do you think is okay? A few weeks? A month? A few months? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Skims101. Want me to put away the dishes? Well, don't say I didn't warn you. This happened a few years ago. My mother called me down to come put the dishes away from in the dishwasher. I hated the dishwasher, it never really cleaned anything. There'll be little bits of food still inside most of the bowls and on the plates. Usually I set the dirty dishes aside and run them through again when I'm done, but my mother hates that I do this, insisting that the dishes are still sterilized even if there's still little bits of food. My mother was also in the kitchen making dinner for us and some family friends we had coming over. I started pulling dishes out and realized they were really dirty inside, and it would just be better to run the whole thing through again. My mom lost it and started accusing me, saying I was just trying to get out of work as always. My dad also saw the dishes, but didn't want to contradict my mom as they had been fighting recently and just kept silent. I said freak it and just put the dishes away anyways. Later that night, when our family friends came over, they were disgusted by the dishes, which honestly looked like if we had never washed them after eating spaghetti the night before. After not being able to find any clean dishes, we had to run them through again and wait for the wash cycle to finish. They never came over to eat at our house again and always insisted on either meeting somewhere or eating at their house. I'm not sure if this is controversial or not, but are you team pre-wash before using the dishwasher, or are you team let the dishwasher handle all of it? I myself can't help but be compelled to at least try and rinse the dishes off. Any bits of obvious food I tend to kind of clean off the plates before ever getting into the dishwasher. This next story is by That's What I Do 1, got 2 days off of work by following orders. I was a brand new private straight out of school. Landed in Fort Bliss, where you get all sorts of briefs. One brief in particular was Assist, where they teach suicide awareness, I guess. Anyways, you get a certificate after completing it, which I did. About a month later, my supervisor calls me into the office to explain that he had to give up one soldier to go through Assist, and I was the lucky one chosen to go. I explained respectfully that I just took the course, and could show him my certificate to prove it. He said he didn't care, just to make sure I show up to class on time. So I did. I showed up to class and presented my certificate to the instructor. He said I didn't need to be there, so I left and went back to the barracks, where I hid for 2 days. The course was 2 days. Honestly, I kinda doubt the supervisor cared too much greatly either way. I bet it was nice just to have 2 days off regardless. Hopefully they didn't have to hide too hard. Our next story is by Jandal Kink. Narcissistic dad asked for help, but didn't receive the help that's needed. There's about 10 sheets of metal to place on the roof in the next couple of weeks once the rain dies down, and for the meantime they're lying down in the driveway. It's about 1 meter by 10 meters, and they aren't really in anyone's way. Dad called me out to move them to the side, standing on its edge. No, I'm glad to help. Always willing to give a helping hand, even if it's something I don't think is right. But nonetheless, I gave my opinion saying they manufacture and even deliver these on the face, so the edges don't get damaged. I told them that they aren't intruding in anyone's way and think we should just keep it there. However, he insisted we move it, to which I obliged. My dad is one of those people that you can't carry large objects with. An example, he moves too quickly or slowly for your pace. He holds them awkwardly or demands them only be held a certain way. We started to pick up the metal, but due to the size and dimensions, they're quite heavy and flimsy, so I told him to settle down and work with me. As we're placing them vertically, he says I'm not moving fast enough, as if we're in a rush anywhere, and pushes the sheet metal fast enough to cut my hand. I again insisted maybe he should follow my directions so we can try and work with this. However, he was adamant my idea was wrong before even hearing it. At one point, my mom joined in to give me a hand dealing with his crap, because we all know he's like this sometimes. We pick up one sheet, and while moving them to the place we're putting them, my dad just yells, "You're pathetic and you can't help whatsoever." I say, "You're right, I never saw it that way. You'd be better off moving this without me." Dad says, "Fine, piss off then." I go inside, drink some tea, and my mom joins as my dad struggles to move the metal. After about 2 minutes, he comes back and asks for help, but I just tell him I really wish I could, but I'm pathetic. Maybe others might help. Without going into specifics, I dealt with a lot of stuff very similar to this vein of stuff growing up. And it sucks because with these kinds of parents, if you don't conform exactly to what they want of you, they punish you and say nasty things and make you feel terrible. Although it sucks to have to deal with it, there is a certain level of freedom and invincibility you get when you become an adult. They no longer can just boss you around or take stuff away from you or threaten you. Really, that power they lord over you is no longer there once you support yourself. This next story is by Hotash Chudhuri. Head gets fired after being rude and bad at her job. So I worked this internship as a graphic designer, work from home in these trying times. The boss is very, very nice and very approachable, and when I was inducted into my position, he and the marketing head gave me all the creative freedom to work in my way. The marketing head provided me all the content in a spreadsheet, and I chose topics from among them every day. It was all great. I made about 6 to 8 designs each day, important for later. Sometimes the head asked me to make small corrections, and I did. They posted the designs every day. About 2 months later, the marketing head resigns, replaced by a new head. A woman ready to micromanage and subject me to her whims since I was the only subordinate to her. She asks me to discard the old spreadsheet and gives me a new one. However, her spreadsheet was acutely inaccessible, very difficult to work on, and lacked details. I worked around that for a bit, but soon it was apparent that she included no instructions. Single slide posts or carousels, what info goes in which slide, what colors to use. Every day I'd deliver my designs, and she'd ask me to redo them from scratch with a new set of instructions. Some of them pretty impossible. An example, she'd asked me to put a picture of the Constitution of the UK in a post related to UK. When I pointed out some difficulties, she'd just say something like, "Work it out as I said or just do it." Her list of corrections became long and indecisive, and she acted like she was the last word here. She would post the graphics with an Instagram filter on it, which made my head hurt. She even added a vignette to every design. Then the worst began. I exhausted the content list she had sent me and asked for some more. I was also having college exams, so there were delays. I talked to her and wait until an hour passed and I pinged her again. She did send me the new topics, but not before reprimanding me for being so late and demanding a pretty complicated design in 15 minutes. Work productivity fell as I tried to work with her demands. In a few days, I needed new topics and told her so. She just said, "I'll send them, wait for my instruction." I waited the whole day with no word from her. The next day, I wrote to her asking for new topics. Now, we all communicated in a Skype group, and before, I had tried to DM her, only to be told by her to follow protocol and message in group. So, my first malicious compliance, I asked her everything in the group, including new topics. A few minutes later, she sends an irate DM saying, direct copy-paste, "How many times have I repeated myself that if work is required, you shall be informed? Then, what is the reason behind you dropping a message in the group?" Well, cool. My big malicious compliance sets in. I say okay and leave it there. I spend the day not working. In fact, I spend the next few days doing nothing and sending no messages. Now, I get paid on a daily basis, so I was literally getting paid by sitting around all day. Soon enough, my boss and I have a word. He promises to help me out. That's when he notices how the head hasn't been posting anything or doing anything worthwhile on the social media handles. He asks me to go ahead and work on old stuff while he has a talk with the head. A few days later, she's fired. To me, from start to finish, it sounds like the absolute wrong person to involve in any kind of design role. The fact that they were slapping Instagram filters and vignettes on everything left and right already screams the whole graphic design is my passion type thing. And then by the end, it seems like they just gave up anyways. And our final story of the day is by Big Tibby Goth Girl. Find a replacement or you're fired? Well, okay, I'll do just that. My first job when I was just turning 17 was fast food. The rules for requesting time off there were a major pain in the butt. Schedules started on Thursday and ended on Wednesday, so the manager in charge of scheduling creates and posts the schedule on Monday, so there's a few days between you getting your schedule and when you have to work. The problem is, if you want time off, it has to be requested 2 weeks before they make the schedule. So if you want to take time off on the weekend, you have to ask off almost a month in advance. And since everything is done online, if you miss that time frame by even a day, the program they use won't even let you put in the request. And asking in person when you have your next shift results in a "I don't know, I'll try to get you those days off, but I really need 2 weeks notice" standard reply. Keep in mind this policy is in place at a fast food restaurant where 90% of the employees are high schoolers that often have things that come up where they don't have near that much notice. Usually you could get other people to cover your shift if you're gone for some reason, but I had finally had enough when I asked in person. Longer requests needed to be in person to get 2 weeks off during winter break to go on a trip to Florida with my family, and they only gave me the second week off because there wasn't enough advance notice when I had asked them at the beginning of November, and the trip was at the very end of December and covered New Year's Eve. Their policy is that if you have 2 times where you don't show up or call in to tell them that you won't show up, you are fired. So after getting a call from them when my first day off came around and I was halfway across the country, they said I needed to call other workers and find someone to cover for me or I would be fired. I had had enough, so I just blocked the number of the location I worked at and had a peaceful rest of my vacation, relying on the mentality of out of sight, out of mind. After I got back and tried to check my schedule, my account had already been removed from the system. Most of the people who were good workers and would help you out if you needed them to take your shift had left, so I was looking to get a new job soon anyway. Later I learned they were being extra harsh around then due to corporate wanting to cut down on the overhead, and the best way to do that was to not employ as many workers. The cherry on top is that after I left, a friend that still worked there said that a couple of weeks after the general manager fired me, some of the assistant managers were saying that they missed me and how they now had to spend more time making sure jobs were getting done. To be quite honest, to me, this kind of a story isn't that big of a surprise. I would argue that most fast food restaurant chains are really more than capable of trying to prey on whoever works for them. You're more than likely not getting paid what you deserve regardless just to begin with. I would just imagine turnover is not really a concern at a fast food restaurant. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.